Hello. Hello. Anyone around here speak basketball?
Taking Bobby Webster.
This is Adam Silver.
Vision 6-9. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Confederacy of Dunks
Basketball Podcast.
I'm your host, and who, sir, in the baby blue long sleeve are you?
The baby blue thermal that I took on a bike ride before the pod, because that's how I get down. I'm your producer, Matt Duncan. Fred?
Pardon me, this guy's rolling thermal. Shout out Newmarket. Maddie, I rode a stationary bike, so that's how I get down in Toronto.
Nice.
Afraid of riding my bike near Jane Street.
It definitely gives you the biking on Dufferin vibes, which is like, you never know if you're going to come back. You go down Dufferin.
No, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Are you good or what?
I think I'm good. Yeah. I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. Sweet. Let's fire this baby up. Okay, Nigel, let's start with you. My question here is sort of, going to reveal my opinion. I feel like I'm kind of in the minority in this territory, but I feel like the NBA has kind of been, hurting its product for a while now, with the commentary around resting and, the shortened season and player empowerment. There's sort of this kind of, I don't know, punitive angle. And yeah, this year we have, two newer rules. One I kind of like, with the having to play 65 games to get major awards. And this new one, which I think is really vague and kind of opaque, and to me is showing their hand that they are kind of dropping the ball marketing wise. And it's about rest. I'm sort of curious where you guys are coming from. Like, how real is this rest issue? Like, how much of a problem do you actually think it is? And yeah, do you think the NBA is dealing with it in a constructive way?
So for me, I think it's a situation where there's a conflict of interest, right? The NBA is all about money these days. TikTok, TV revenue especially, and putting people's bums in the seats, right? That's their big money makers. If you don't have guys coming around, fans are not going to want to buy your tickets as much, especially in smaller markets like Charlotte.
Right.
Now, Toronto's always going to sell out, but smaller markets, they need that cash even more. And then it doesn't look good for ABC when Bucks play the Lakers, and all of a sudden there's no Giannis, there's no LeBron. So,
yep.
But at the same time, there's a conflict of interest in that the players don't really care, right? They want the money. They want the $42 million a year that Freddie got. But they don't really care about the regular season. It's all about the playoffs. And that's where they really, really make their reputation.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And, as Raptors fans, I always sort of cite our championship season where we did both. We rested Kawhi, who let it all hang out in the playoffs. And we were good without Kawhi. And I think before I throw to Sean here, to me, it's sort of, I guess why I'm bringing it up is I feel like, I look around at baseball or soccer or other sports. I just feel like there's so much marketing around 10 to 20 players in a time where the league's as deep as it's ever been. Right. And I wonder if the NBA's approach is sort of not, they're not focusing on sort of the wealth of talent they have, and they're kind of, they're trying to punish like Embiid, for instance, who will probably, if he ever needs to win a championship, like have to rest. Like he'll have to sort of not play against the shitty teams. I don't know. Yeah. But where are you at with all this sort of like the rest talk and everything, Sean?
I mean, I think resting actually is a pretty serious issue for the league, and it speaks to Nigel's point of like the playoffs seemingly right now being the only thing that anyone cares about. And I feel like I've made this plea on this show before, but like, can we please acknowledge that the 6-month grind that is the regular season matters and should be a thing that's celebrated, should be a thing that we get excited about. It's our entertainment through the crappiest months of the year. We spend all this time watching the lead up to the playoffs, and then when we get to the playoffs, it's like, well, that 6 months didn't matter. Like, what are we doing with our lives if we're deciding that half of our year is spent doing something utterly meaningless? And so we have to try to change the thinking there and actually make the regular season a little more important, a little more valuable. I don't exactly know how you do that, but for me, I don't have any issue with the rules the league has put in place this year between the 65 games thing, which I think actually will matter. We'll get stars playing more. And also, you know, the new sort of no resting 2 guys at the same night, no national TV games, all the different rest restrictions you have. Like, they're an imperfect solution to a problem that we know the answer for. It's like, we can all see it. Shorten the schedule. Play 70 games, and this isn't a problem for anybody. But we know the owners are never going to go for that because of the aforementioned money and bums in seats that Nigel brought up. And so for me, if I'm Adam Silver, I'm stuck between knowing the answer is 70 games will fix all these problems and not being able to implement that very obvious, clear solution. And so this is an in-between sort of half measure, but I don't think he has a full measure at his disposal. And frankly, like last year, the regular season, as much as it was awesome, as much as we saw, you know, parity and all this stuff, there were so many games. You tune in, you're all excited, and it's just like dudes aren't playing. And it's like, well, I'm going to go play Zelda instead because I don't need to go watch the 2 good teams play with 4 of the most important players not in the lineup. And I know that if you force guys to play all these games, it's going to lead to more injury. Sure. Maybe that's what you have to do to make the owners feel uncomfortable to actually get them to go for the one thing that will solve all these problems, which is shortening the schedule. I think, again, it's an impossible issue for Adam Silver to address from his position between as like the conduit between the owners and the rest of the league landscape. But as far as the rules they've put in for this year, I have absolutely no problem. And of course, resting is an issue. It's an entertainment product, and a ton of the nights that the entertainment product is on, you don't get the good people who you're looking for the entertainment from. It's like tuning into this season of Big Brother, and all of a sudden, 2 of the nights a week, oh, well, Suri isn't on it, and, you know, she's just taking the day off. No worries, we'll get her back later. Like, that sucks. That's not what entertainment's supposed to be. So good on Adam Silver and the league for actually trying to do something here. I think the in-season tournament helps as well, but of course it's a problem, and they're doing the best they can with a problem that, again, has the very obvious fix that they just can't implement because the owners and their money.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's sort of, I'm coming from a kind of conjecture standpoint, but like, I'm curious, like, do you guys think, like, let's say we did go to a 70-game season, do you think that players would no longer rest? And or do you think that they would not, you know, get injured? Like, I guess the way I see it is sort of like part of Adam Silver's statement, which I found really interesting, was challenging the science around that. He said that the NBA doesn't believe the science that players do need rest to get less injured, which is the first time I've ever heard that from the kind of like NBA brass, which I think sort of changes the narrative around like whatever. Damian Lillard, you know, playing 60 games versus, you know, 78. If the NBA is sort of like, yeah, well, we don't believe those extra games cause injury. And yeah, I mean, and also like from the owner's perspective, I totally sort of like, I'm with you there, Sean, but also I wonder, are you able to sell the players on, like, if less games means less money, who's going to go for it, I guess? Like, like the players as well. I mean, like, is the players union going to be, are they going to be down with less money? Like, I can't see them, you know what I mean? Like,
I guess my question on this, I guess my question on this is like, are we sure that it means less money? Yes, it means like less gate revenue. Sure.
Right.
But down the line, are you able to charge more for your TV rights deals? Are you able to just charge more for every single game's tickets, prorated for what it would be over 82 games? You just sort of throw that back into the price of the ticket, but people feel like they're actually getting their money's worth when they go to these games, and they know, hey, a guy's going to actually be playing in this game. As far as the wrestling, like, of course, Adam Silver is going to say, we don't buy that science, right? Like, I think... I also, we'll see. Like, I'm sure there's plenty of studies that say both things, right? Where too many games versus not enough games, you can kind of read it however you want. But I think it's undeniable that if you had the same length of schedule, trimmed off 12 games, which ends up being like 3 games a month, 2 games a month, then you end up with fewer back-to-backs, fewer arduous travel days. And I think that it's not just an injury thing. It leaves the quality of basketball to be better as well. When did the best basketball that we've seen in the last 10 years take place? It was in the bubble, where they were super rested and weren't traveling all the time. That basketball was incredible. And I think that would sort of, it's a big picture thing, right? The owners will be like, 12 less games on the schedule. That means 6 less home dates, therefore less money, therefore no. But I think they're kind of missing the big picture of it would improve the overall quality of the league to where you're making more money on every game that you're putting out there to begin with, because of all the things that we just kind of laid out.
That's a good point. And, certainly, obviously, when you get into different sports, it's kind of gets funky, but the NFL obviously has a model where there's not a lot of games and they make a preposterous amount of money. Where are you at with Nigel? Do you think that these are sort of like concrete approaches? And I didn't even mention the in-season tournament, which is I think like in one season we're having sort of 3 things kind of trying to address this regular season. I don't know, if it's a problem or sort of a discomfort. Like, I guess I'll say that I do enjoy the regular season. Obviously, there's stinker games, but and I can't foresee if I would enjoy it more with less games. But I guess if it means, less, I don't know, Chris Boucher is more. Sorry, Chris Boucher, but you know what I mean, like less sort of like whatever, like bench players. I don't know. I guess that means like you're gonna have more star time. Sorry, go ahead, Nigel.
No, you know what? That's fine, Freddie. At the end of the day, I just want to see these teams play. The more games, the better for me. As a fan, I'd like to see 82 games of it. That's my content at nighttime. Keeps me home and safe, and my wife is very happy to see me not taking
home and safe. Is a fun little wrinkle there.
So 82 games is great by me. I love it. I love the regular season. I'm up and I'm down depending on how the Raptors are doing, right? So, and there's some great basketball being played as well. So for me, you know what? I'm not making any money of this. In fact, I'm paying to play, right? So for me, it's not helping me either way.
Fair. And I will say maybe it's sort of part of my own sort of like addiction to basketball, but like, I love FIBA. I could watch a G League game. I guess like the star aspect of it, for sure. Do I want to watch the Denver? No, if I go to a Denver game, like I'm a season seat holder. If I go to a Denver game, do I want to see Jokic? Absolutely. Do I want to see Jokic and Murray? Yes. If they're not there, am I sort of like, oh, this is going to be less exciting? Yes. And I think that's my most honest answer there. But also, I think I'm probably not on that fringe of fan, right? Like I'm hardcore enough to be like, I'm going to enjoy this. And also, the Raptors better win. You know what I mean? Like I have that thing where it's like, if you don't bring your stars to Toronto, I want to punish you by winning. So we're not one of the teams that you rest against. But again, that's just sort of like a personal team fan thing. And I don't think I'm really, I guess in that sense, in touch with the, average fan who's like, might be driving in from Peterborough or whatever to say, to watch LeBron and he's not there,
Should be said, like I even with 80, I love 82 games as well, right? Like I love the season. I love baseball because it's just always on. It's great,
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And there's an element to that of the NBA during the darkest, saddest months of the year,
For sure.
my sort of counter is just like make the schedule longer? Like start in late September, start in early October. Like
yeah, yes,
you can do that. Like just like we just had like 4 months of nothing, of just thinking about Damian Lillard trades that ain't happening and thinking about Pascal Siakam trades that ain't happening. Like I know these guys need some time off, but like also I'm a soccer fan. They get like a month off and everyone's doing just fine. I feel like you could just kind of spread it out. You really want to be a 12-month-a-year league? This is how you do it. Just expand the schedule a little bit. Have your 82 home day or 41 home dates for each team. Make all the money, but give a little bit more time in between for dudes to not have to fly from Utah to Phoenix on a Wednesday night and play the next night. Like I think there is a way to kind of get everybody happy here. I know you have like international tournaments to take care of and worry about and all of that. But if you're the NBA, like I think the obvious answer here is your season starts October 1st and then you're not playing catch up. You actually have the room to play all your games and ensure that your players are properly rested and therefore likely to play in more games and not be sitting out because the biometrics are saying, second night of a back-to-back, you probably should sit this one out.
Yeah, I think for the NBA, we got a situation where they don't care about us. We're committed. We're committed, right? So they know they have us. It's that guy who they can maybe turn into one of us. That's who they want to bring. And LeBron will be the starter, the initiator, right? So for them, that's how they're seeing it. I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, I think Sean's saying a great thing. Extend the time. Start in September, finish later, right?
You know how bored I've been this month? Like there's nothing going on. I'm so bored.
Yeah. So Sean, you touched it, and it was so eloquent too. Like I think for me, that's the actual obvious answer. Is if the concern is rest and the concern is injury, less time, and then I think the other one is less travel. Does every team have to play every team? I don't know, right? Should you have more situations where? I think I've enjoyed the recent kind of leaning into baseball. Like maybe, it would be kind of weird, I guess, but the Raptors play Philly 4 times. It's like, well, play them 4 times in a row.
Or get your 2 games like in Philly done in one shot. It's good for travel, good for the environment. There's no downside to that.
Honestly. Okay. So you heard it here first. Sean has the actual solution. Adam Silver, please call him. He's been calling you. So. Okay. Let me start with you, Sean, on this one. And I love analytics and stats, as much as the next guy, but like I really love sort of focusing on the relationships of the players and the coaches. And I feel like that to me is part of the drama of the NBA. Obviously it's so much conjecture and just guessing and, for anyone who's been watching Winning Time, it's really hard for me not to sort of see some of the Scotty Magic parallels, and also the Paul Westhead, Nick Nurse parallels, and, other parallels as well. But, not to say that either of those, guys are as good as the comparisons.
Paul Westhead have a guitar in that show? Or?
He didn't, but he was really obsessed with his process and basically making players do a very specific ideological thing. And Magic, as people know about Magic, was a major alpha, and it was his team. He was best friends with the owner, and if you didn't play with him, then you were probably getting shipped out of town. Anyways, all that sort of brings me, like, there's so much sort of like Scotty Fred tension, like amongst the fans, and like I'm not super interested in that because Fred's gone. Wish him well. He's in Houston. But I am sort of interested in what you guys think. Like, what is there a clear leadership structure on this new team? Is there, like what sort of, who's filling in that gap, or is it a committee that's filling in the gap? Like, obviously we have to see it play out, but what do you think sort of going to happen as far as like kind of leadership and dynamic with this team, Sean?
Yeah, I think it's actually one of the bigger questions facing the team this year, because Fred was very obviously like the most vocal leader in the room. And, you know, him and Pascal were the two most accomplished dudes on the team. And I think a big part of what went wrong last year was like a pretty obvious disconnect between Scotty Barnes and those older dudes. We've heard the reporting on all this stuff. We don't need to rehash it, but like, I think it was always pretty understandable that happened. You know, you had Scotty Barnes coming off the Rookie of the Year. He comes in. I understand to an extent him wanting to kind of be the dude. I also totally understand why Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam, two dudes who have made All-Star games, won titles, in Siakam's case, made 2 All-NBA teams. I totally get why they were like, we're not just going to give you the keys now yet, bud. Like, you're 21 years old and you float through most of all of these games. Like, that's just not happening. And so I get why it all went down. I am fascinated to see how the dynamic shifts this year with no Fred and Pascal seemingly just kind of hanging out in Europe. And like, what is his role in the team right now? What does the team want for him? We have no idea if he's even going to be on the team when the season starts at this point. That's still very much up in the air. And so, like, where is that leadership going to be from? It could be Scotty. Maybe Scotty's ready. Maybe Scotty learned from last year that, you know, it's not just going to be handed to him, that there actually has to be some earning it involved. Maybe he realizes that his conditioning needs to be better. It was not where it would needed to be last year. He admitted as much at the end of the season. And I don't think you can really stake claim to being the dude on a team if you can only bring it for 8-minute stretches every other night. Like, it's going to be on Scotty largely to kind of say, all right, I'm ready to be the dude now, and this is how it's all going to work, and everything's going to flow for me. And if he does that, great. We've seen over 2 years, like, Scotty doesn't need permission to take over a game and become the dude who obviously everything has to flow through. He's done it a handful of times, and it's breathtaking to watch when he does, but he hasn't done it nearly enough. And so I think the sort of the aggression, the sort of this is like an on-court thing more than an off-court thing, I suppose. The locker room dynamics, I don't profess to have any sort of handle on at the moment. Right. But on the court, like, it can be Scotty's team if he chooses for it to be, but we have yet to see that happen, and we have to see it in practice before I'm going to buy in and be like, yeah, well, it's just Scotty, point Scotty, it's time, hand him the keys. And again, the whole Pascal thing hangs over this very strangely. And I think it's going to be very important that Darko Rajakovic comes in and has like a pretty good handle on the interpersonal relationships and kind of set some expectations, because I don't think Nick Nurse did that last year at all. I think everyone kind of thought they had a claim to being the dude on the team, and Nick Nurse never kind of set the hierarchy, and that led to the season-long hell that we lived in with this team last year. So that's kind of my read on it. But yeah, figuring out who is going to be that sort of on-court leader, the vocal locker room leaders, we'll see. I'm sure Dennis Schroeder will have a say. I'm sure Jakob Poeltl, sort of more of like a lead by example type dude. And we know Pascal kind of has it in him a little bit, even though he's not the big raw guy. But there is a vacuum without Fred, and how that's filled in, I think, is one of the most important questions for the general harmony and vibes of the team this season. Yeah, well said. And, I didn't bring up Nurse in this, but, that I'm so, well, I guess I did a little bit with the Paul Westhead comp, but, I think, I've said this a bunch, and I'm not the only one, but, it really makes me think about there were so many things that were simplistic with Dwayne Casey, right? But, he kind of came in and he had that role card thing, and he gave everyone, they're like, here is your role, perfect it and then exceed it, and then we'll talk. And I think obviously that wasn't Nick's style, and I'm not saying that needs to be Darko's style, but I really, I kept wanting last year, like I kept feeling like, man, can we get like at some point, can we get like Nick, Pascal, Fred, and Scotty to go on a camping trip? What do we got to do here? Because you saw flashes. Even at the end of the year, you saw more sort of cooperation between Fred and Scotty, I thought. But yeah, where are you at with sort of the leadership, the dynamic, also Darko coming in, Nigel?
So honestly, I don't think so. Everyone says Fred is that leader, and he has done stuff, but I don't think he got that buy-in. And that's the number one thing for a leader. He did not get the buy-in from the young guys. And he said he wanted them to push harder, get going, work on their skills, and they didn't do it. So if Kyle Lowry, that's who I miss it right now. If I really want leadership, it was Kyle Lowry. He brought it. Everyone knew what they had to do. Remember that famous story with Bismack? when he told him, "You rebound it, I'll run the team. That's my job," right? That's the kind of thing that we don't have. And you know, they brought Garrett Temple for some reason over to create some kind of leadership, and you know, I don't think that's the right guy either. I don't know. There's a lot of issues here. Hopefully Darko and his personality, he's a salesman. He's really good with people. Hopefully that can do something, but that's the biggest question, as Sean said right off the start.
Yeah, and you know, just to sort of follow up, Nigel, like sort of interesting note there with Fred and Kyle, and I think, you know, we could all agree that Kyle you know, had a type of leadership that, you know, we hadn't really seen that much before with the Raptors, and you know, certainly haven't seen that like level of leadership. But it makes me think about sort of like when an you know, like a real like alpha male comes in, and you know, a guy like Scotty, like, you know, Sean alluded to, you know, rookie of the year, drafted high, like he's been the guy, he is the guy. He's like, give me the balls, and you guys sort of like just wait for something to happen. I'm gonna make it happen. You know, makes me think like, obviously, you know, we will never know what Kyle would have done with Scotty, but we did see Kyle with Kawhi. And I think Kyle was able to be like, okay, this is someone you don't tell him what to do. He's just a robot who is perfect all of the time. And he just doesn't make mistakes. So I don't know, just we'll have our team without him and our team with him. But yeah, so I guess I'm just kind of coming back to you with like, do you expect that since, you know, the path is cleared, that Scotty is going to be like, this is my team? Like, Pascal, you might be more talented than me, but it's my team.
What would make you think that he would do that? That's my question about Scotty at this point in his career. What would make you think that he would want to grab the horse by the reins and take over? Because he hasn't up till now.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I think he wants the glory, I guess, is what my, like, I feel like we've seen the, you know, fourth quarter Scotty would show me that a little bit. But also what's interesting about him is that he's like, I think really like the peak of his game that I've seen is when he's like, whenever, you know, that's why the Magic comparisons, I think, right? He likes when everyone's involved. Like his leadership is like, I think he wants the team to be like laughing and joking around. Like at one point last year, he gave Pascal and OG shit for not doing fancy dunks on breakaways. And I think there's some, anyways, yeah, like I'm sort of meandering here, like, but that to me is super fascinating heading into this year, like kind of like what the vibe of the team is like, because I don't think Scotty is like gritty in that sense. He's hyper competitive, but yeah.
I mean, look, he's going into year 3, right? I think he'd probably admit himself that last year was not a banner year for him. And I think, you know, the way things went with Fred, you know, again, I think there's sort of blame to be laid at both sides. I don't think it's all because Scotty was like a, you know, entitled 21-year-old or anything like that. Like Fred obviously had some pushback too, but you know, there's obviously tons of opportunity, tons of potential that Scotty just comes out and like the leap happens and he's the dude. I have my, you know, concerns about the actual roster build and how conducive the roster is to actually facilitating that. But as far as like what Scotty can control, I think it's totally possible that, you know, fresh slate, fresh coach, you know, the Fred thing is behind us now, that he comes out and actually kind of does take it by the horns and kind of do the thing we've seen for those brief and utterly tantalizing flashes. It just hasn't happened enough. But again, year 3, totally different. He's 22 years old. Guys improve. Guys figure it out. Guys mature. We could totally see that happen. But again, I'm going to have to see it first before I'm like, oh, it's Scotty's team and it's undeniable, because it is undeniable when it happens. It just, he hasn't done it nearly enough.
Yeah, very fair. I think that's a great place to call it. Maddie, I'll get you to come in. Guys, this was a fun episode. Thank you both. Nigel, let me go to you first. What's up? What do you got going on? What do you want to let people know?
Well, nothing's going on right now. This has been a terrible, boring off season, and I have been unmotivated by the Raptors. I don't even want to think about them, to be honest with you. But season's coming up, and I'm hoping they can get their shit together. And let's see what happens. You know, all the best. That's all.
Okay,
that's my agenda. Let's go Raptors.
Nigel is plugging hope for the future. Sean, what's up? What are you doing?
Yeah, Locked On Raptors is back to daily posting this week, so check it on out. I did a mailbag show today, Monday. I don't know when this is dropping, but Monday we did a show with Vivek Jacob talking about Pascal Siakam and the Hawks and Bogdan Bogdanovic and all the different stuff going on there. We're around all week. We'll be probably talking about Damian Lillard on Wednesday, so you can tune into that as well. So just Locked On Raptors. We have a Discord server for the show as well. The link is in the description of all the episodes if you want to come hang out. It's a nice little family we got building in there. So thanks for having me on. I'm really happy to have been back, and I'm happy to get you on Locked On Raptors very soon as well. I'll plug that, a forthcoming Freddie appearance on Locked On Raptors.
Yeah, come
I'm also in their Discord too, by the way.
Hell yeah.
Shit,
I love that
unhinged.
Discord. That's lots of good stuff. Lots of good stuff in there.
Are you married in there or just like single?
Yeah, we're just doing ASL nonstop to everybody in there.
Oh man.
Yeah, check out all Sean's stuff. It's incredible. I'm a fan. Matt, what's up? What do you want to let people know?
Yes. Everybody, thanks for listening to the podcast. Make sure you go to your podcatchers, give us a rating. We've got a couple more episodes of our off-season specials bi-weekly, and then we will be continuing again weekly with season 11 of Confederacy of Dunks. It's funny that you mentioned Discord. I was going to plug the Raptors Republic Discord because we've all heard the announcement that Twitter will soon be fully a paid service. So I'm sure there'll be another big purge of people leaving as
another winning idea.
Yeah,
Good God.
Apparently that's what's going to happen. It'll probably cost you at least $5 to keep your account per month. But there's a Discord for Raptors Republic. Go to raptorsrepublic.com. They have links for it there, and another great place to talk Raptors ball. So until blue sky blows up and we're all smiling on a rainbow, let's just try to stay together. You can also go to the comment section on raptorsrepublic.com. People like to get into it there too. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll see you in a couple weeks, and
Hell yeah.
Have a good couple weeks, folks.
Maddie, I would pay $5 that I won't pay to Twitter to just listen to you read the news in that. Thank you everyone so much for supporting the pod. And Maddie, if you're done, we're good. Just give me those words I love so very much. Okay.
Listen to full episodes of the Confederacy of Dunks only on the Rapcast.